U.S. Agency for International Development has come into the crosshairs of President Trump, and he told his head of the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk, to dismantle it. The past couple of days has been tumultuous for the agency. On Saturday, members of Musk's team arrived at the office and were physically blocked from accessing its internal systems. Then, the agency's website vanished without warning. This morning, staffers were told to stay out of the agency's headquarters in Washington, D.C. The president said the agency needs new leadership.
It's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out.
Well, now the agency has been absorbed by the State Department, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying today that he is the acting administrator of USAID. All right, for more, let's bring in Rick De La Torre, Senior Vice President at Continental Strategy and a retired CIA Senior Operations Officer. Rick, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Before we get into this current scuffle at USAID, tell us more about the agency itself and who funds it.
Right. So USAID originally started under the Kennedy administration, is funded by the United States Congress, but it's not part of the United States Department of State. That just changed now, obviously. What's happened over the years, the original mission of USAID focused on advancing U.S. policy at the direction of the executive, has evolved over the years into something that pretty much sometimes runs against U.S. foreign policy objectives. So with that in mind, I think this administration, they're looking at correcting that and making USAID more mainstreamed under the State Department.
Yeah, and let's talk about the controversy now. Apparently, Elon Musk, who is heading up Doge, which, as we know, is tasked with reducing wasteful and unnecessary government spending, is pointing to some questionable expenditures, such as sending funds to EcoHealth Alliance, a medical research group that has been linked to the Wuhan lab in China, and also funding DEI and LGBTQ programs. What more do we know about this, Rick? And if it is true, does that fall in line with the concept of the agency?
Well, in my personal opinion, I don't think it does fall in line with the original intention and goals of the agency. It has had over the years consistently funded very, very controversial issues that many Americans may object to. Funding for abortions, funding, like you mentioned, to LGBTQ issues, and many foreign nations where this just isn't part of what they're looking for. USAID was originally intended to build bridges and to help water treatment facilities. And then now so much of that money really goes to controversial social causes that most Americans, many Americans, I'd argue, have their own personal problems with. And because of that, perhaps maybe we ought to consider whether or not those things should be taxpayer funded.
Yeah, and a lot of people are asking, can President Trump, or any president for that matter, actually dismantle USAID? What say you?
I'll say one thing, that if there's anybody who can do it, it is certainly President Trump. He has, over the years, taught us that the impossible can be made possible. I think the top-down review of USAID, and by the way, let me also say that USAID does do some wonderful things out there, right? Let's be clear about that. But we are now $35 trillion in debt. We currently need to start focusing our attention on being fiscally more responsible. And I think when taxpayers start learning more and more about some of these initiatives that are funded that they know nothing about, it becomes a real political liability, and people lose faith in the institution overall. I suspect that President Trump, and particularly now under Marco Rubio, they will start working on making USAID reflect actually the policies of this administration, and generally reflect foreign policy from the State Department, and streamline their efforts and funding so that it makes more sense.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, they do some good things here. President Trump has ordered a freeze of foreign assistance there. So, Rick, what kind of impact could this have around the world when it comes to those good things that this agency does?
Well, I think short term, that's going to be the most impactful, right? Because he's ordered a 90-day freeze, and I think we're into day 4 or 5 of that. There are folks currently now at the State Department reviewing what initiatives are currently underway, what is USAID funding, And as soon as they review those and make sure that it is in line with the stated foreign policy objectives of this administration, things like, what is America? How does America benefit from this? How do the people that are requesting this aid, how do they benefit from this? Once those questions become clear, then I suspect they'll be approving programs one after the other and turning those back on.
Well, Rick, thank you so much for your insights. We really appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you.